she wound up picking the right answer. I wound up getting it wrong, so she got to rub my nose in it. But after the fact, I said, you know what? I got AI on the brain like I do every day. Let's try out the new O3 image perception feature, right? Let's point the camera at this chart. And we did that, and it got the answer right away. I mean, it got the answer right away, and it explained it in ways that made us both smarter. And so it's like, all right, well, that's a high school/college exam, and I know these things are, set to pass the LSATs and the math Olympics and whatever. But just seeing that in the kitchen in real time after we had struggled for 20 minutes, was really like, wow, no question this can solve this.
Hello and welcome to Not Replaced Yet, episode 4. My name is Nick Bushkar, and I'm here with my brother Jesse. Say hello, Jesse.
What's happening?
This is the show where we give you insight and inspiration on what matters most for you, yes, you, in the world of AI and why you should be excited. We need your help building Not Replaced Yet. We need you to like, subscribe, share, and comment, please, 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 and go to notreplacedyet.ai to sign up for the email list.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for the intro. If this is your first time joining us for Not Replaced Yet, I'm Jesse Bushkar. I'm a marketer by day. I founded the nonfiction agency where we help some of the biggest brands in the world solve complex marketing and sales challenges. But by nights, weekends, and nooks and crannies, Nick and I put this show together to engage with a broader audience and really demystify, make AI approachable, and help make AI work for you. I think that's a flag we like to fly here for sure.
Absolutely. And on my end, I am a developer by day for nonfiction and by night content creator, among many other nerdy things.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've always kind of had our hands in many different technological cookie jars. I don't think that's a real analogy, but I think maybe we can make it a thing. It's probably a domain name we could register.
Create an image from ChatGPT of technological cookie jar.
Yeah, so
that's it.
Anyway. As we said on our live last Friday, we have been working on our format, putting in the reps to, and taking a lot of feedback. So if you've joined previously, if you've shared, we've talked with more people than I would have imagined by episode 3, now 4. So thank you a lot for that. Today, we're not going to dive so much into news. We are going to talk a little bit about some things that launched this week, specifically ChatGPT's new model. It's O3. And I'm going to share my screen and just read a little blurb from the official announcement. And then we're going to jump quickly over to, I'm hitting the mic button. Why am I hitting the mic button? We're going to jump quickly over to kind of why you should care. Actually, Nick and I are using a framework. It's what, so what, now what. We're going to tell you what has happened. So what is why you should care. And now what is what to do about it and what's coming on the horizon. So with that said, hopefully you can see the screen now. And this was April 16th, so 2 days prior to the recording of this, introducing OpenAI O3 and O4 Mini. And Nick's going to tell us a little bit more specifically about the definitions, because O3 is a reasoning model, so is O4 Mini. We're just going to focus on O3. O4 Mini is for some special use cases as far as I would consider. If anyone disagrees with that, let us know in the comments, because we can definitely dig deeper into O4 Mini. But today, O3, it is their latest state-of-the-art reasoning model on several fronts. And the piece I wanted to highlight here, what's changed, OpenAI O3 is our most powerful reasoning model that pushes the frontier across coding, math, science, visual perception, and more. And it's really this visual perception that we're going to hone in on today. What does that mean? Why you should care? So I think, Nick, anything else from here that you wanted to touch on? Or, do you want to read through?
I think that's great.
All right, so we'll come back to O3 in a few minutes. Just mentioning a couple other releases because they were bundled with this O3 release. GPT 4.1, which I know these naming conventions are frustrating. The OpenAI team actually makes fun of themselves. They say they'll have an upgrade, an improvement on that front come summer. Also, Codex CLI, their command line utility was released. Both of those, GPT 4.1 and Codex, are developer focused. So Nick, have you tried either of these?
Haven't tried them yet. Definitely excited to. And Codex CLI makes sense because Claude launched theirs, and there's other competitors in the space. But no, definitely excited to dig in there.
Cool. Yeah, we're not going to spend a lot of time on dev tools today, but we'll probably do episodes on those in the coming weeks for those of you more technical viewers. And then just on the horizon for OpenAI, worth mentioning while we're down this rabbit hole, O3 Pro, which again, we're going to talk about O3 today. Pro will be the souped up model, probably offered to the Pro tier, and so we'll keep our fingers on that pulse. And then GPT-5, their hybridized model, which brings this all together, is currently set for the summer, but that can always change. So, Nick, you went down a bit of a rabbit hole when we were talking about this episode and kind of developed some formalized definitions for what a reasoning model is like O3 versus what a more traditional GPT model has been, which is a lot of what the audience will have experienced. Can you share those the definitions so that we're kind of anchored to something more formal before we riff on them in a minute?
Yeah. Okay, so bear with me. It's a little nerdy, but it's gonna make sense, I promise. So earlier models, there was a distinction that they were not reasoning models, and that's the language that Sam Altman and all the folks surrounding him are using. And so I pulled in some past examples, put it into ChatGPT, had a conversation with it, and this is what I came up with, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So earlier models, you can think of them as fluent pattern matching models. And so that's an LLM that excels at producing coherent text by spotting statistical regularities in its training data, yet it does not reliably plan multi-step solutions or surface its internal logic. And that's the key part. Think about that. It does not plan multi-step solutions or surface its internal logic. And what you read is effectively a high-grade autocomplete. It is fluent and often useful, but with no transparent chain of thought behind the answer. And so that's what models up to, I don't know, mid last year or whatever have been. And some of them still are. But now there are reasoning models. And that is a model that is engineered to build and then when asked, reveal a logical chain of inference, letting it connect ideas, solve novel problems, and justify its conclusions across text, code, math, images, or audio. It separates thinking from recall. So you get both an answer and an optional step-by-step rationale in natural language code or tables.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you some examples of that in a minute where you can actually see that chain of thought that Nick's talking about as it's developed, because it's like a precursor. Imagine you have a front row seat to the subconscious of the AI. It's saying, oh, the user asked me for this. Now I should do this. But wait, need to consider that, and you can kind of see that now. There are some reports that I don't know if they were actually experimentation or just observation, but that it's not actually being honest with its chain of thought, but that's for a different episode, definitely a different vibe. And so before we get into examples, I think there was one other major kind of contribution to this conversation when O3 dropped, and it was from Nick, one of your guys, Tyler Cowan, had the quote.
One of my guys, for sure.
One of your guys, yeah. You guys go way back.
Yeah.
Podcast wise.
No, he kind of he's a famous economist and author, and he wrote on his blog Marginal Revolution is April 16th AGI day. And so he wrote, I think it is AGI. Seriously, try asking it lots of questions and then ask yourself, just how much smarter was I expecting AGI to be? And I mean, that's pretty strong compliment right there.
And I'm currently in that camp, not to cut you off because I know you're going to play devil's advocate on that, but yeah. I'm currently in the camp of kind of like, I just don't know for the class of questions I input how much better something better gets. Now I said that with GPT-4 when it very first came out, and it's gotten so much better. So
right. So counter to that, an archive paper dropped, and it downplayed the AGI claims. And it's long, it's nerdy. I took it and I summarized it with ChatGPT. And the gist of that is it says the O3 model performs well on basic linguistic tasks using surface level patterns, but struggles with deeper syntactic and semantic understanding, such as handling comparative structures, compositional grammar rules. And these findings suggest that despite advances, deep learning models like O3 still face fundamental limitations in achieving human-like language reasoning, particularly in compositionality. And so that's the counterweight to a Tyler Cowen. And to me, it's kind of vibe versus data based. Is Tyler Cowen is just saying like, talk to it. Doesn't it feel like it? And they're saying, okay, here's our multi-step process, our data-driven process of trying to figure out if it actually is human grade. I think both have validity. And like you said, I do lean more towards that example. I lean more towards the it's not quite AGI yet. And so, at this point, I will say one of the big problems is that nobody has a shared definition of AGI, AGI being artificial general intelligence. And you and I have agreed at some point we're going to put something together, whether in a show or a series or something, where we come to an agreement on what our definitions are of AGI and ASI, artificial general intelligence, and artificial superintelligence. Because if you don't have a shared definition, you're not having a good conversation about that thing. And so we're going to have that, and that means that we'll know what we mean when we say it, and we'll know, and you all, the audience, will know what we mean when we say it. So that's to come.
100%, 100%. I think that's going to be super important as we build and grow into talking about these things very naturally, and that's part of the goal here is get very comfortable and familiar with this new layer of technology. And so I think that's very important. I do want to move us forward into more the example portion because there's plenty of technical things we could list out, but our goal is to give our audience more useful and applicable introductions to these technologies and use cases. And so, Nick, this vision feature has been out for a while, despite the newest state-of-the-art upgrades. I remember you had a light bulb moment, an aha moment early on when this had launched. Can you tell the audience a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, no. So I knew that I was going to be using this feature from then on. When I was out shopping for some plants, as you see behind me, if you're watching, and I was shopping for some plants, some flowers, whatever, and I have no green thumb. I'm not good at that stuff. And I looked at these, there were 5 or 6 different flowers that I could buy, and they looked different, and I wasn't sure why, and they seemed healthier or less healthy or whatever. And so I just pulled out my phone and I remembered, I can give it a picture now and ask it. And so I did that, and in real time, in the moment, I gave it a picture of all the flowers and I asked which one I should buy. I wanted the healthiest, and it explained to me in detail which one I should buy, and it was right. It was absolutely the right answer. And so that was truly a light bulb moment for me. It was this is something that I'm going to remember to use from now on. And just to harp on that for a moment, this is an example that I think matters. It's that we remember the tools that exist. We only use what we remember exist. And so Google, everybody knows Google exists. You remember to go to Google to ask a question. And so something like using live video or giving it an image, giving ChatGPT an image, is something that you have to remember is right in your pocket. You can just do it at any moment. Just pull your phone out and give it an image or pull up the live video. So just really start embedding that in your brain.
Yeah. It's a framing of problems and a recognition of new solutions, I think is just said a different way. So that was early on, right? You had that light bulb. This is not something that happened this week. This was a year ago or more.
It was a while
ago or something.
Yeah.
And so if we fast forward, I was this previous week, keeping up with the O3 drop and reading the reviews and things, and that visual perception piece really stuck out, because that doesn't just mean a photograph. That means charts. That means screenshots. That means live video that frames are being extracted from and used as the images. Documents are processed, as many of them, as visual inputs to these AI systems. And so when I saw that, visual was something that this excelled at, coding, cool, not nothing to sneeze at for sure. In science and math, nothing to raise your nose at. But visual perception is universally valuable. It's not valuable to a niche of employment or field of study or something like that. Image, it's a more foundational feature to my eye. So I'm I'm going to share an anecdote, and we're going to get kind of to the so what portion here, because I've got some examples keyed up, and we've got them side by side, 4.0 and 0.3. And so the latest and greatest reasoning model, and then the latest and greatest regular model. And again, I'll show you the difference that you can tell when you're using these tools. But I was helping my ninth grade daughter, 14-year-old daughter, Juliet, with her AP World History homework. She's got an end-of-year test, or one of the last lessons, and it's tough. I got to say, I'm 42 years old. I don't know if I could pass AP History. I certainly have lots of opinions on the questions they ask, but like, I don't know, the style of question, the no textbooks, like I'm dating myself, but like, I don't think I could do it. So anyway, I'm helping, trying to be helpful with her studying. And we come to this chart, this line graph, and I'm not going to describe all the details of the graph, but you can imagine an AP, so basically college level exam test with, kind of a poorly constructed, like copy of a copy of a copy that had been scanned in. And so, and this was a study guide test. And so it was hard to discern some of the detail in the visual, and then it was hard to answer the question. It was answering about two populations, birth rates and death rates. And so Juliet and I went back and forth on this. We were like, all right, let's see. I think it's this, you think it's that. Well, wait, that said this. So let's make sure, is that the right dashed line and dotted line, etc. She wound up picking the right answer. I wound up getting it wrong, so she got to rub my nose in it. But after the fact, I said, you know what? I got AI on the brain like I do every day. Let's try out the new O3 image perception feature, right? Let's point the camera at this chart. And we did that, and it got the answer right away. I mean, it got the answer right away, and it explained it in ways that made us both smarter. And so it's like, all right, well, that's a high school / college exam, and I know these things are, set to pass the LSATs and the Math Olympics and whatever. But just seeing that in the kitchen in real time after we had struggled for 20 minutes, was really like, wow, no question this can solve this. And so to kind of, I don't have the AP study guide handy. She's passed the test since then. I think she passed. I'm going to have to go check. I don't know. I hope so. But here we have a proxy chart. So Nick actually found this. We were just Googling complicated charts or something like that. This is not family inequality. This is from the ASA, the American Sociological Association. We're not going to talk about any of the data herein. We're not going to analyze or try to understand what this is telling us from any perspective other than the data analysis perspective. But I wanted to show you how big this is. This is blown up, and so you can see some labels. This is obviously nodes and connectivity. But when you zoom in, it's not that great. It's not like a really high res image. And so we wanted to find a complicated chart. This was harder. This is more complicated than the AP chart. So just, I don't want to over exaggerate that one. But here we are. I brought this in ChatGPT 4.0. 4.0 is not its most powerful model. It's kind of the all-around model. If you're not familiar, you can use the model picker, which is going to be deprecated, going away in a few months. But anyway, I uploaded this chart, and I said, I'm not sure what this chart is trying to tell me. Help me understand. And this is 4.0. And so it gives me what I found to be a pretty generic explanation. You're looking at network visualization, essentially a map of relationships between entities. This appears to be a co-authorship network or citation topic network for academic papers, likely in sociology or gender studies, because of the labels that are visible. It's explaining what clusters are. It's, again, repeating the labels, how to interpret it. There's kind of themes. The cluster size and density matters, but it's not telling me any real detail about what I'm looking at. It's very I could have gotten all of this myself. And so not bad. It interpreted it accurately, just super low res. When I jump over to O3, same image, same exact prompt, it says it thought for 1 minute and 5 seconds. That's actually one of the longer chain of thoughts that I've seen. Before we get to the answer, this is your visual cue for whether you're using a reasoning model or not. There's this visible, readable, human digestible process that you can map. I think the goal here is to explain this as a network graph showing relationships around keywords. Clusters are likely color-coded. And then it actually ran some code. It actually wrote some code to analyze the image, looks more closely. I'll crop its center to zoom in. This should help us focus on crucial details. Okay, screenshot scaled down, making the text hard to read, but I think I can still get the gist. The titles like this seem to indicate groups, possibly related to ASA 14, the 2014 American Sociological Association. So already, before it's even output anything, it understands the context of this image, right? This chart is from the American Sociological Association. It's really connecting dots that 4.0 didn't even attempt, you know. And it makes me think, Nick, of what you're saying, autocomplete, right? I read it through like autocomplete is like, yep, this is what it is, this is what it is, this is what it is. But this actually has some introspection or the illusion of introspection, the benefit of illusion of introspection. And so we're getting there. So I'm gonna skip ahead because look, it's cropping individual slices of this. The left cluster is this, the right cluster over here, et cetera, et cetera. And it's done. Here's a plain English tour of what you're looking at. Already, I'm here for this, you know, comparatively, right? It's a Twitter interaction network, most likely produced with these two technologies. Each rectangle represents this. These were hashtags that were used on Twitter. Each green arrow and line equals a retweet, reply, or mention. So, like, now I'm anchored to some reality, right? And I did look back at this article. It is accurate to the degree I can understand it, you know, from outside observation. And then it breaks it down into tables. It talks about the density of blobs, you know, what that would mean. A dense blob equals an echo chamber. A sparse blob equals looser ties. It's getting really down in the weeds, and it starts to talk about what the topic mix was when we're talking about Ferguson and gender and symbolic action, researchers linking Ferguson protests to interactionist theory, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I'm not saying anything about, you know, ups, downs, lefts, rights of this other than a tool to analyze complex data. And then big picture insights, lots of this, and then how you might use this, and then TLDR, it's a map of who talked to whom on Twitter during this conference, color-coded by conversational neighborhood. Large, dense blobs show active sub-communities. Arrows between them reveal how ideas, especially about Ferguson, traveled across the conference Twitter sphere. So that is really impressive. I mean, Nick, how does this strike you?
That's the word, impressive. I mean, okay, so I was thinking about this, and there is the obvious idea is that computer vision was upgraded, right? That's sort of the obvious thing, but that's not very like useful. And the way that I am thinking about this is it's insight on demand. That's the level that we're at right now. It's that. And I have this sort of framework in my head that I don't have perfected yet, so I'm probably going to bring this back up. And so while you were talking, I was actually kind of making a note of this. And we have to remember that each AI feature is as bad as it will ever be right now. And we now have 2 years of evidence of these features continuously getting better, but, you know, potentially multiple times a year. And we know all of the like effort and you know, money that's going in the investment. That's the word. Thank you. That's going to go into the infrastructure for this. And so this insight on demand is just, it's not only right now, what you just read us is as bad as it will ever be again. And that is impressive. That is cool.
Yeah. Barring some crazy left turn, you're absolutely right.
Look, I mean,
anytime anyone says ever, never, et cetera, right?
right. You know, whatever. But
all right. So I got another example here,
please.
And I've got two other examples because I think, you know, we don't always need complex graph analysis, right? Like what I was just looking at is not something that I would do on a regular basis. You know, my kids going to older high school and then college will be using these tools considerably, and I'm sure we will work-wise. We do a ton of marketing analytics, and so this is very relevant. But in that regard, that's not everyone. And so here's this is an idea that I had. I was talking with our buddy Corey. Shout out Corey. I hope you're watching. And so there's a rich territory here for sports data analysis. Okay. So this is a random graphic. Corey was educating me on replacement value, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher it. I'm a basketball, soccer, football guy. But Elliot, my 9-year-old, has recently gotten into baseball, so Corey's been helping me wrap my head back around the sport. And anyway, this is the relationship between hit distance and hit angle. So the hit angle is along the x-axis, and the hit distance is along the y-axis. So depending on what angle you hit it, there is correlation, potentially causation to the hit distance, right? That's the big banner above this. So I brought this into 4.0. We're going to start with the non-reasoning model. And I said, can you tell me what this graph is trying to explain? And here we go. This graph is showing the relationship between hit angle and hit distance in a sports context, likely baseball or softball. Because again, you see, I only took a screenshot of this, right? I didn't send the entire angle.
And for the audio listeners, the graph says nothing about baseball, nothing about softball.
It literally says relationship between hit distance and hit angle, right? And then there's a scatter plot of these dots on the x and y axis. Okay, so the x-axis is hit angle in degrees ranging from about -50 to 80. Let's see if that looks right. Well, yeah, -40 is the last one, and it travels a little further, and then 80 is up here. That's pretty good.
It looks right.
Negative values likely represent ground balls. That was the first one that I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I didn't think of that, right? Like, okay, that checks out, right? And then positive values represent balls hit into the air or fly balls or pop-ups. And so it goes on and talks about just details. Optimal hit angles for distance appear to be between the 25 and 35 degrees, where the distance peaks above 400 feet. Very low angles, -50 to 0, result in a much shorter distance. These are likely grounders. Very high angles above 40 also result in shorter distance, probably pop-ups. There's a clear sweet spot in the launch angle range that maximizes hit distance. Now, I would imagine this is kind of like an accepted, known, like if you're a baseball fan, if you're a Moneyball geek, you get this already, right? This is not rocket science-y. That's why I'm excited to play this out. Funny enough, this O3, now let's exactly the same image, exactly same prompt, thought for only 6 seconds. So remember that complex data graph thought for 1:05, and this it only took 6 seconds. And that is not 100%. It's correlated, it may be causal, but it's not a solved problem where complex problems need more compute, but it is something that these models are trying to solve for. So if it can answer it more easily, then it's only going to think a little bit. And so that is part of the kind of behind the scenes that is improving. Let's just look really quickly at the chain of thought. Only a single chain of thought generated. The scatter plot shows the relationship between hit angle and hit distance. In baseball, the smooth line suggests that a hit angle increases from about -40 to 25 to 30. The hit distance increases, peaking around 350 to 30 degrees. So the spoiler alert here is it did analyze it. It was a little more analytical. It got exactly the same answer. And so this is kind of like an aha moment counter to the O3 news drop. Like, this is not a hot take. These tools have been available to us for a while to do this level of analysis, right? If you are in a space that has moderately complex to low complexity data viz, this is already here, and you should be using it, and you should be integrating it into your workflows, because this example was like, yeah, that reasoning model really wasn't necessary. We got what we wanted. Now,
yeah, and to add some color to that, and to get slightly nerdy, is part of the conversation around the usage of these models is cost. And so if you think about people building tools on top of this, like one way we're looking at this is just we're in ChatGPT, and you pay $20 a month and you get ChatGPT. Okay, great. But what's happening behind the scenes is developers are taking these tools and building GPT into their own tooling. And so every time that inside their tool GPT gets called, they then have to pay OpenAI. And so each model costs something, it costs different a different amount, right? And so for these higher reasoning models, O3 is more expensive than 4.0. And so that's, to your point, it's very relevant to people who are trying to offer up a good experience, but for lower dollar amount.
Yeah.
And but I agree completely with you here, is that a lot of, 4.0's been great. It's not like O3 showed up and just blew it out of the water, but it's really impressive in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
So there's distinctions, but it's not, 1,000% better.
Yeah, totally. I have one more example. It's the least formal. Yeah. You gave me a good idea, because I was like, what other image could we analyze? And it's I asked it for size of crowd. How many people are in this crowd, right? Now, to be fair, I picked a little bit of I picked poorly, to quote Indiana Jones. I chose poorly. But this is, and there's a little bit of fun down here. You can see it peeking out. So the reason I say I chose poorly is I chose Sanford Stadium, University of Georgia football stadium. Okay, so it is documented how many people is in this crowd. You can see I threw a Gaussian blur over the field and the screen. Right, I was trying to, because it says Georgia on the field, and I was trying to get it to not know that, but it got it right away. Based on the image, you're looking at a large full stadium. This appears to be Sanford Stadium at the University of Georgia, which has a seating capacity of 92,746. Astute Bulldogs may disagree with that number. I had to look it up, and it says it's just over 93,000. The data cutoff here is June of 2024, so we might be 100 off or so, right? Given the visible packed stands and no major empty sections, it's fair to estimate that the attendance in this image between 90 and 93,000 people, likely a sold-out or near sold-out event. Okay,
that's a little unfair, right? That's
Yeah, that one didn't prove it.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to come back to this tab in just a minute. This is O3. Thought for 13 seconds. It did this. I'm thinking it's best to check the capacity of Sanford Stadium just to make sure I'm working with the most up-to-date info. So it knew it. It didn't want to guess, right? And it says 92,746, so same data capacity or same data cutoff as before. This one's a little interesting, though. It says only a sprinkling of empty seats show up in the corners and aisles. Call it 5 to 10% unfilled. If we assume 90 to 95%, then the head count comes out to roughly 84,088, comfortably say 85,000. Now, this was a small, poor quality image. I'm looking. It's right. I was about to say he's right. Right here, this is not packed to the gills 93,000. Right here, people in between. So maybe they've left, or maybe they're in the bathroom. Who knows?
Yeah.
But those seats are not full. And so you would guess if this was a sold out crowd.
It's extrapolating on some amount of empty seats.
Some detail, right?
That's interesting.
So I felt like even though this was a softball question and I chose poorly, I still pick up on more detail. And then the question is like, if we reran that, would it see that detail? Would it prioritize that detail? Was it lucky? Was it wrong? I don't know. I mean, you could do this more scientifically, because we could find out what game this was. This was just a Google image search, but we could find out what game this was. You could like actually see attendance numbers and stuff. But regardless, like, I'm going to be using O3 for my image manipulation, my image perception. And I have one other little wild card on this. I am curious to know, I haven't done enough tests and I haven't seen anybody talk about this, but if you rewind a month when ChatGPT's image gen feature kind of breaks the internet, right? Studio Ghibli, and you can make all these things, and we did an episode on it already. Like, it's really amazing, an upgrade, a level up, step change. These same models can generate images just like their new upgraded image inputs give them these powers. And my question was, with O3's thought process, will it be better at generating images? Not because it's using a different image gen model, but because it's going to think about the prompt more rigorously that it passes into the image generation model. So I said, can you make a cartoon showing Georgia Bulldogs beating the Florida Gators? Well, that's not a hard thing for this model to do. This was what 4.0 generated. So, go Dogs, right? Like, I'm a fan, but like, it's stepping on the head of the gator. I love it, but it did get green legs. We got hairy dog here with green gator legs, and that's no good. Okay, so we can't use that. O3, I thought this one was impressively better. not just because this had the gator legs here and the claws, but because it's in a stadium. It's taking context from what I already asked about it, put it in the stadium. It didn't have any mistakes. And not only is it showing the score, it's showing us tackling the gator. So, like, really impressive. I don't think this tells me that O3 is better, right?
Yeah.
It's a one of one. It's not.
The one of one is interesting.
Yeah. But I am encouraged to go down this path more. So that's all I have to share. I don't know, Nick, is there any dots connecting for you as we're looking at these examples across, or is it just kind of like we got to get our hands on more than the 2 days since this has been released? How are you feeling at this point?
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to use it more. I'm excited to see if I just personally have that, another light bulb moment, or if I'm just, impressed by some feature or something, some response. And so I want to use it more. But so far, big fan. And I am, you were the one, I mean, you did say it in when we were talking offline the other day about the prompting nature for imagery. And so I'm going to do the same. I'm definitely going to use it for creating images. And I like to have multiple little tabs open at the same time and creating images, and I'm going to compare them. So definitely coming up with that.
I think we should make some shorts on just those of like A/B test, and the headline is like O3 is better at image gen, because I truly haven't seen anyone talk about that, connecting the dots of like prompt development passing into the model.
Sure.
And so I think that's something really worth digging into. So I think cool use cases. I learned a lot about putting these together for future episodes. So I'd love to hear feedback if these use cases landed, if they're interesting. Tell us in the comments, or just reach out, text me, text Nick. And actually, beyond that, I think it's really important that you all go and try to find your own use cases. Like, if you have not worked with images, try to stump it. Try to think about what would be a valuable thing in your life. Like Nick said, from the beginning of, asking about plant health to curiosity over data analysis, anything in between, and then 1,000 things we haven't thought of yet. The sky is the limit, which is what makes me so excited about these tools. And to that point, I want to segue into our now what. We've done what, right? Big news drop. We've done so what. This is how people are using it. This is how you can use it. This is how you can think about it. Nick already touched on the now what, which is this is not over by a long shot. The exponential curve is still improving. And so when I'm floored by the current state, I was floored by the previous state, floored by the current state, on the horizon is something that we haven't even wrapped our heads around. We don't understand the scaling laws to a degree. But even without the models improving, there are obvious things that will roll out now that this invention, the level of state-of-the-art performance that these inventions are achieving. So you can imagine, like, what if the camera that you rig up for this visualization is taking a zoomed in photo at the same time as your perspective, right? Kind of multi-layer depth of field. Well, it can make that data available to get an even higher res view of whatever you're trying to give it an input. I think of things like night vision. I think of things like my doorbell, which has a camera that's always on facing the street. I can now, maybe see the tracking number of the package as the delivery person drops it off. I can see that, my son's friend came over and, which you could already do, but I'm just seeing, like, what are the possibilities now that it's synthesized, now that it's real time? I don't know, Nick, are there any like use cases that maybe aren't quite here, or are that you haven't even tried? Because that's how I feel about the now what is, like, what do we do going into the world with this new superpower that we all have at our fingertips?
I'm glad you asked, because the thing that I saw just yesterday, and actually they dropped the full video of it today, is the it's not necessarily a relaunch because they kind of announced it a little bit ago, but it is Google Glasses. And so for those of us who are old enough to remember the original version, which Jesse, I know you used at a previous workplace of yours. But I actually have it pulled up here, and TED 2025 is going on right now. And Google did a presentation, and they showed off the current iteration of Google Glasses. And so I'm just going to play this. I kind of picked a spot. I mean, it's a 16-minute video, so you should watch the whole thing. You can find it on YouTube real easily. But just check this out.
Awesome. Now I'm going to launch Gemini.
Hello there.
Hi, Gemini. Can you start us off with something fun and creative and write a haiku for what I'm seeing right now?
Sure, faces all aglow, eager minds await the words, sparks of thought ignite.
Some anxious but happy faces as well, yeah. As you can see, the AI sees what Nishta sees, hears what she hears, and is responding in real time. But that's just table stakes. I think everyone in this audience has seen demos like this before. Let's actually step it up a notch with something we call memory. For a rolling contextual window, the AI remembers what you see without having to be told what to keep track of.
So you guys may have noticed I snuck a peek back at the shelf a moment ago. I wasn't paying attention, but let's see if Gemini was. Hey, did you happen to catch the title of the white book that was on the shelf behind me?
The white book is Atomic Habits by James Clear.
That is absolutely right. So let's try something harder. I keep losing my hotel key card. Do you know where I last left the card?
The hotel key card is to the right of the music record.
There you go. Now we're talking.
Careful as me, that's a killer app. Okay.
All right. And so, I mean, yeah. Please
And they
go
could have
watch the full
translated.
video.
She could have translated that sign. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like there's like 6 other
completely,
demos.
yeah.
It's probably the next 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. And so, to me, this is the future of where this is going. We're going to have the physical device that is connected to these AI features that we've been talking about this whole episode, and it's going to be a different world.
Yeah, my head goes to never losing the remote control again. You know,
Yes.
that's my like.
Don't lose your keys. Don't lose your remote.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and
Well,
I like that.
I'm a fan of the tap gesture. I'm a fan of all of that. I'm a fan of I have some fun anecdotes from my first go with Google Glass that I'll save for another time. But yeah, visual perception. Like just to sum it all up, visual inputs. Please try it yourself. If you haven't done it, go out there and find something. And again, I treat it like a challenge. You should be trying to stump these things with things that could be useful. One example that I just remembered that is one of the first uses is I had it wasn't a credit card. It was like a prepaid debit card I had received as a gift. And they got a million, tiny 2-point font, single-spaced words on the back of the application for its fine print. I just took a picture of it and asked it to explain it to me. Now, don't make any extreme financial decisions by doing that. But if you need a quick gut check, if you need something that is not in text form, take that picture. Think of image input, video input as a superpower that you have to practice to master, because once you do, it really opens up the world in a new way, in lots of new ways.
Yeah, we were talking about redecorating last night, and I took a picture of our living room, and I said, redecorate this with a coastal feel, no wicker. And it changed some things. It's not perfect, but it was interesting to see what our living room looked like in the updated version. So
totally, I was doing the same thing.
Things.
Doing the same thing the other day with the outside, like, I want to put a porch here. I'd like it to be brick pavers. I'd like a fire pit in the middle. Give me a rendering of that. And I mean, in 30 seconds, I've got something good enough to say like, okay, cool. I'd do it this way, that way, etc. So, well, that's episode 4, everyone. Thank you. If you made it this long, thank you so much. I know that we're still working through the kinks. We really appreciate the feedback, and any podcast reviews, YouTube reviews that you feel like are warranted. We're not asking anybody to endorse anything they're not enjoying, but they are kind of the signal that these platforms can use to say, well, let's serve it up to more people. Let's serve it up to more people. In fact, episode 3, Nick and I were just looking at our analytics, has surpassed the first 2 in most views. And so help us keep that ball rolling. Let us know what you like. Let us know where we missed the mark. And we want to keep building this with you. So do please go to notreplacedyet.ai. You can sign up for our email list there. We're working really hard in between the episodes to build value, whether that's content, whether that's tutorials, whether that's applications and tools. All of the above is in our plan. So thank you so much for the time. Nick, anything you want to say on the way out?
Like, subscribe, share, comment, please.
Por favor. Take care, everybody. See you soon.